If you are a painting company that uses subcontractors to produce the work that you sell, in this video, I'm going to dive into Airtable and talk about how the structure of Airtable combined with the interfaces is a fantastic option to streamline and automate a bunch of the data and management of subcontractors specifically. So if that's of interest, stick around because that's what we're going to be talking about. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Chris. I am the owner of BooleanAutomation, where our mission is to free you up to do what you love. We have an awesome reputation management software that is called Boolean Review, and it is a software that I built when I was the marketing director for a large painting company on the West Coast. And this is the review software that I built as a marketing manager with the exact specifications and what I wanted to drive the maximum number of Google reviews with quality stories and photos. And the best part is it's completely automated, like almost everything that we do here at Boolean. So if that's of interest, click the link below to learn more about our review software. And now let's get into this video about Airtable and project management using subcontractors. Recently in the Facebook painting contractors group, there was a guy, Michael Gallagher, who asked a question about project management of painting projects, and in particular for people that use subcontractors. And so I was in a conversation here just talking about how we use Airtable, and there seemed to be some interest with how you could use Airtable specifically for this purpose. So in this video, I want to walk through how you could use a painting project management system inside of Airtable. And welcome, Cole, to ask some great questions here.
What's going on, Chris?
How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, this is admittedly, I'm not a huge Airtable guy, so this will be interesting to see how things go.
Going to walk through subcontractor stuff in particular. Do you use subs in your business?
We do. Yep.
And do you also have W-2?
Just subs.
Just subs. Okay. So I am trying to think of the most logical way to begin here. So how much, like a scale from 1 to 10, what do you know about Airtable?
I know it's database. That's basically it.
Okay.
I use Monday.com, so if it's anything close
Similar
to that, then maybe.
Yeah.
But
I would say when comparing Airtable and Monday, they have similar structures. Monday is easier to get started with because they've got a lot of templates that just, like, in my opinion, they make logical sense to what we're used to. And when we see like task management or project management softwares, Airtable is more open-ended, but it starts like a blank sheet, which can be very intimidating. So in Airtable, these are some basic stuff that I think is helpful. You want to break up projects or your painting business into types of databases. So in this case, we have a database of all projects. I'll remove these filters. So we have a database of projects. We have a database of customers, database of companies, database of employees, AWOs, invoices, hours, customer payments, and so on. You can have a whole bunch of different things. But the point is that you first have to decide what are the logical objects that are worth putting into its own database. And the way I like to think about it is like projects all get assigned, a customer, subcontractor, a sales rep. There's a dollar amount tied to it. They're normally associated with additional work orders, whereas employees, I should say, have start dates, hourly rates, birthdays, whatever else you want to put in there. Customers are going to have addresses, phone numbers, emails, etc. So by grouping them into like objects, you can do that. One thing that I think is helpful, and feel free also to like ask questions, interrupt me at any time. One thing I think is notable to point out between Monday and Airtable is that Monday does not allow you to share, or it doesn't make it very easy to share very specific pieces of information without giving access to the underlying data to subcontractors, for example. So if you wanted to show subcontractors like just the address of the job and the work order, that would be hard to do without giving them access to the entire thing. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that you'd have to pay for that subcontractor user, if I'm not mistaken. Do you know if that's true?
Yeah, I think you can. You have to pay for a certain number of seats.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gone over it, so I don't know. I haven't been charged for extra, but I know that I could give people access to certain boards. But yeah, I think it is controlled by seats.
Yeah. Okay. So in the one thing with Airtable is that you create your database. And in this case, we've got a ginormous 150 something columns of different data points that are tied to a project. And it would be really just a big pain in the ass to have to deal or manage projects from a spreadsheet type view, which is why Airtable has
Yeah.
interfaces. And this is the part that I think is just massively, massively powerful that I feel like I get so excited about. And that's why I'm creating so much content on this, because I don't think people realize how you basically can make your own app and show just specific pieces of information that are relevant to particular role in the business. So in this case, this ACP painting company, they have W-2 employees and subcontractors. So they have different interfaces that their W-2 employees see versus their subcontractors. And also, I think it's notable to point out that subcontractors are only going to be interacting with this on their phone. So this is, I actually pulled this up, so I had this ready. This is an example of my phone screen right now looking at the Airtable base. And because I'm logged in as a make-believe subcontractor, rather than seeing, 300 projects or whatever ACP has at the moment, I'm only seeing the projects that I'm assigned to. And ACP has control over which pieces of data in the underlying data they want to show the subcontractors. So, like in this case, we're obviously going to give them an address, an access code, estimated number of hours, and the price that the subcontractor is getting. So, if I click into this make believe project here, I can see, when the start date is, what the status of it is, and I can choose if you want to have view only users, which I recommend because it's free to have view only users, then nothing would be editable. But you can create forms that then allow you to, like, the subcontractor could submit a form that would generate a work order or like a hold harmless form if they're going to have you move your fridge or something like that. So this is another really cool thing. This actually needs to be edited. Instead of saying press here, it should say get directions, but you can press that and it
Yeah.
pulls up directions to the actual address of the house. Same thing for company cam. We actually have the deep link into the company cam app stored, so it pulls up inside of the company cam app if your subcontractors use company cam, so that they can go directly to company cam, take photos, and then go back to the app. And then again, they can see their price, how much they've already been paid by you, and the amount that they still are owed on that project for the project. So in this case, the subcontractor price was the original amount, and then there was some additional work orders that were sold. So then there's actually, I haven't been paid anything, so there's actually more money than like the original that was in this scenario. So there's that piece. Now, this part is really cool. If we go back to here, say I'm the operations manager in the business and I need to pay subcontractors. So again, you just think about every single role in your business and what is relevant to what they need to do in their job. You can say, okay, I'm going to pay the subcontractor. So I'm going to go to this Chris Kiefer job, and the subcontractor on this one is Roberto Moran. So I can log a payment. So I click log payment. And then this particular client, we haven't integrated it with any like ACH or direct transfer, although that would be possible. This company just does paper checks. So you can see it automatically selected the project and the subcontractor that this payment's going to. And I would just type in, okay, I'm cutting check number 4587 or whatever. And the amount, it defaulted to what is the total amount owed. But if I change this to, I'm only going to pay 2475 right now and submit that. Now, when I go back to the base, it automatically logged for the business and for the subcontractor that I've been paid the 2475. So then if I go back to my phone here, so again, as the subcontractor view, so I come in to see my projects again, and I could see under projects, in this case, I've already gotten paid 2475 and I am still owed 2000, right? So that's kind of a neat thing. Another piece of this is like additional work orders. And I'm curious, after I show you the basics of this, I would love to have you say like, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this?
Yeah, my gears are turning.
So the additional work order is another thing that I love this feature. So let's say I'm painting the house and I want to do another bathroom or whatever, right? So I can go to this, and this again is the perspective of the subcontractor. So I come in here and the client wants to say, hey, can we add on that guest bedroom that we told you we didn't want to do initially? So I would say, yes, this is for the guest bedroom, and the total amount is going to be $700, and it's going to take 7 hours to do. And I'm just going to say test guest room. So then I go ahead and submit this, and that's all I had to do as the subcontractor. Then this is the part that almost feels like magic. The customer gets an email within, I think it's, we'll see how long this takes. Oh, yeah, it already came in right here. So the customer gets an email from the business. And again, this is like a dummy account that I have set up. So once this loads here, you'll see. And now I get a DocuSign that I would say, it says, here's the amount for $700. And I would say, okay, this is just a silly, I don't know why we put a postcode in here, but this is just you could ask whatever information you want.
Yeah.
Then I sign that. Then I go back to the business here. And again, in the underlying data behind the scenes, I can go and see that there's an AWO table that just keeps track of all my AWOs that came in. And the one that I just submitted right here shows that it was a field AWO for Chris Kiefer's project for $700. And the status, which is somewhere over here, is accepted. And then here's a copy of that signed AWO agreement. So all that stuff happened, in seconds. Yeah. And then again, from the subcontractor's perspective, all they had to do was fill out 4 fields and then proceed with their day. And as soon as the person fills it out, it's good. And then if I go back to that subcontractor view for the app, because I just sold additional work, let's say in this case, I think I set it up to say the subcontractor gets 50% of the total amount. So now that total subcontractor price has jumped up another $350 because of the additional work that I just sold. So now it's properly calculating that I'm still owed $2,350 instead of the 2,000 before. And then the hold harmless form operates the same way as the additional work order form. Similarly, you just fill out like literally what are you moving, submit it, customer gets a DocuSign, they sign it, it gets logged, and you go about your work. I'm trying to think what else would be relevant. Yeah, what thoughts, ideas?
Yeah, I'm curious if we even like take a step back, if we like how are these projects created? So is it real time like pulling information from that initial database to these like project cards, or is someone going in there and creating
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm
So
saying? Like
yeah,
how does that
tell me
happen?
if this answers the question or not. But that's one. So I love that that's how you're thinking about it, because unless you want to go back to like how does it go from like Paint Scout in this case is what the customer
That was
uses.
my next question. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I like to, this is actually probably more helpful, is to go to, I always start with, okay, what's the flow of data from a high level? Like, what are we trying to do from sales to, or from marketing to sales to production and so on? So this is, this is like, again, very overwhelming. Holy crap, what the heck's going on? But if you zoom in on any one given little yellow box, it's all these mini
Yeah.
processes that have to happen inside of a business. So in the case of this, when an estimator moves the deal from one or to the one stage, there's a bunch of just like simple logic here of like, is this an additional work order? Yes or no. If it's not additional work order, meaning it was an original project, it would get added to the Airtable base directly through this automation. So when I move as an estimator, I move the deal to one, and then all the relevant information in the CRM automatically populates the project base inside of Airtable. And then because these cards, this is the thing that is like, it's not an additional.
It's just a reformat.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's literally the underlying data. So like in my subcontractor view, I'm saying I don't want to give edit access to the underlying data. But for example, for my W2 employees, I have alternated it and I don't show a price. Also on the subcontractor, I'm not showing the sold price. I'm only showing the price that we're paying them, right? Same thing for like the W2 employees. You could go in here and say, I want like the status is editable. So if I change, I'm not going to change that one. I'll change the Chris Kiefer one. So as the crew leader, I'm giving the crew leader the ability to say Chris is now in progress. And because I edited that field here, if I go back to my underlying data, Chris's project was that actual field inside of here was actually updated to, let's go back to Chris. So many fields, it's faster to just search. And again, you would never interact. So you can see like that's been changed. You would never interact with the data at this in the database level. That's really only for setting it up. But that's another thing that I feel like is such a big misunderstanding, is because when you look at Airtable, I actually like probably 3 years ago, I first saw Airtable and I logged into it and I was like, this looks like Google Sheets and it costs money. This is stupid. So I went back to using Google Sheets. And it wasn't until later that someone was like, no, they're all like it's a relational database structure. And the interface thing is the part. And this is, I feel like it's a big missed opportunity for Airtable because they don't have any, like templates of interfaces when you log in. They have templates of bases, but they don't give you like a jumping off point for like, hey, here's a reasonable structure to manage your projects. You know what I mean? But anyways, yeah, that's the what other questions or thoughts do you have?
And then is someone manually like assigning, like essentially you have a database of subcontractors and then someone is assigning a subcontractor to each one of these
Yeah, good point.
like cards?
Yeah, so in this case, but yeah, so these are right now I'm looking at just subcontractors. Here's my crew leaders. I could look at all employees, but yes, every employee has, the first name, last name, email, whatever. So that like when a new hire gets signed up, we would put all their information in and then select what type of employee are they. And then to answer the question about how does this get assigned, when a job comes in, the operations manager is going to come to this recently sold, and it looks like they actually have everything assigned right now. But there would be a project here that would need to be like, I could go to there's projects on the side that like would show up just like this, and then I would go in and say, ooh, I want to assign the crew leader for this one, and I'm going to choose I think actually job leaders is where the subcontractors would be, and I would pick which subcontractor I want to assign the lead on, and then it would show up on their view.
So then does that trigger some sort of like notification, like a text message to the sub themselves? Like how do they
Know about it? Yeah.
know? Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a great idea. And yes, that's all possible. In this case, they don't. But the way, or actually, let's go back to the subcontractor view. Because the thing I think is so, just for like simplicity, as soon as I complete a project, it's going to like pop off or not show on my view. So I could look at like active. This is the only one that I have as an active project right now, or ones that I've already closed out. There's the ones I've closed out. So like if you train your subs to always be paying attention to the app, right? Which is not to be understated as that's a project. But again, I feel like with any change in like at least in my experience, if you're going to change, like if there's behavior change required, it has to be an upgrade. Like it's got to be giving them time back, giving them additional insight into something, getting them paid faster, like something like that. And I feel like that's the goal, is like, rather than just changing something, how can you give someone an upgrade so that they're like, they want to use it? You know what I mean? Which is, again, some people are just never going to use tech or don't know how to use a smartphone. So there is
Yeah.
that. But yeah, that's a good
Because a
point.
lot of my questions too, like I'm just immediately thinking about like the logistics of the day to day, and they all can be like summed up as people problems, right? Like how do you manage people? How do you teach them to use this? And it's like that's maybe not the scope of this conversation,
Mm.
but it yeah, I have subs that I work with, and I send them like my current workflows. I just send them the link from the work order link from directly from Paint Scout,
Yeah.
and it's very jumbled. But like I'll get to the job and they'll ask me questions. I'm like, okay, you clearly haven't even looked at the work
Anything
order.
on it?
So
Yeah.
yeah, they're like, what are we doing? How much are you paying me? I'm like, dude, we've been over this. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So, but that's aside the point though. But this is super clean and seems like really easy to navigate.
And
And it almost seems like it's like more than it's like a completely customized app, right? Like this doesn't
exactly.
even feel
Yeah.
like
And
Airtable. It's like
that's one of the things that makes it hard is that I've actually made a YouTube video. I was trying to find it before this of basically here's how to set up an Airtable base for a painting company from scratch. Right here, like a painting project management step by step. And this is like 20 minutes and it gives you a basic jumping off point.
I need to watch
But
that.
the hard part is like it's just a process to be meticulous and think like through every like what is relevant for the crew leader or for this person to see to do their job. And I feel like in this, like I'll speaking of just like process change for this company, the hardest part of this entire thing was making sure that every crew leader had access, could get on their phone and actually like it wasn't like once they're logged in, now they're fine. It was just like download the app, make your account, remember your password, like those types of things. And then once they get in, I really do think that it's like kind of hard to screw up because you're just
Yeah.
cutting like it's as long as they're like even this like on the side here, see how I have a bunch of stuff down the side. If I
Yeah.
was logged in as a sub, I literally only see projects and calendar. That's it. Like
So
I
it's two
can't
little
do
buttons.
anything else in the app at all. Like there's nothing else to do. So if I get in here, I'm gonna see 2 or 3 projects, and that's all that I would see.
And those are just assigned to you?
Just the ones
Or are you
assigned to me.
seeing
You wouldn't see anything else to any other subs. So it's
and then the calendar view, is it just your
exactly,
projects?
yeah. And in
Yeah.
this case, I think because these were all like, yeah, they're all back in February or January dates. But I could also sort by interior projects. These are cabinet projects, which there might not be any in this particular user, and then exterior. So I could go through, and there's some other things like teaching them to look at by the week, for example. So I could go see, let's go to all records. There's the Chris Kiefer project that was scheduled for January 4th. And so I can get to the same card view through the calendar. So there's lots of like subtleties there. But yeah, once again, it's like, and this, because I have used Monday and I know that you can customize Monday almost as much as you can Airtable. Airtable would win out, but it just takes more time to get to this level of granularity. But I always think about it from like, how do you make it like we're just talking about so that it's like impossible to like get to the wrong place or put in the wrong information or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
and you could, let's say there's someone that doesn't want to use an app or doesn't have a smartphone or whatever, you could set it up. This is probably very similar to what you've experienced in Monday. The automations inside of Airtable are very in the same way of like if I was going to create a brand new automation, I could say, when a record matches conditions, and then you're saying when a project in the projects table, like when the job leader, if you had a particular job leader that was, just ignorant and didn't know how to use technology, you could say when the job leader is specifically, I want to pick, Jose. He's never paying attention. I could say, so anytime that Jose is this and the start date of the job is tomorrow. Like you could whatever things that you want to set up. As soon as the start date equals tomorrow, let's see, go down this farther. Start date is tomorrow. So when these things are true, now I can run an automation, and my automation could be to send an email. I could send a Slack message, whatever thing you want.
All kinds of
Send an
stuff. Yeah.
SMS from Twilio that's like, "Hey, Jose," and then I could pull in like the address of the job you need to go to tomorrow is this, and you can set that for everybody, like so everybody's getting that stuff. Or I mean, honestly, you could probably even send them a text message to the Airtable record in their phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be like, here's where you're going tomorrow. And then it pulls up that thing in front of them. So, anyways, yeah, the possibilities are endless. It's just a matter of like,
Yeah.
I feel like with everything from an automation or process perspective, it's like, is the time of automating the thing, what's the ROI on that? You know what I mean? Like, there's
Yeah.
the more that it's going to be used, the better ROI, right? But yeah, what other thoughts or ideas do you have?
Because I'm thinking too. Like, is there just a browser version of this? Like, if I could see it just in my browser, or do I have to have the Airtable
No,
app?
this is all inside of Chrome.
It's just a
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So they like, well, as a sub, like you don't have to have the app.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I could click the link
Um, Actually, I've never actually tried
and
that.
just pulls up in Chrome.
I think on iPhone you have to have um the app. Let's see. I know on iPad you can view the desktop version of the app on an iPad, but let's see what happens if I just try and log in here. Yeah, this says, let's go back to here. So it's telling me that I have to have the iOS mobile app, or I can get a link to log in on my laptop or desktop. So this one, I don't know if that's true on Android. I bet it is, but I do know for sure on iPad you would log into Airtable through a browser, or they do have an iPad app. But for some reason, the interfaces that I'm sure, like these are called the interfaces, those are only
Yeah.
available through the browser version on an
Through
iPad.
the
So there's like any
gotcha.
no code tool, similar like Mondays or ClickUp or whatever. I feel like it's always trade offs. It's like you said, yes, you're building a custom app, but it's almost you're building like a customizable app. It's not literally custom. So you run into little
Yeah.
quirky things like if I want to look at sales, I know I thought I must not have a different one. I have a like an actual results or like dashboard type thing. And so it's not infinitely, you can't do anything, especially when you get down to like the nitty gritty of interfaces or like charts. Like I want the charts to be formatted this way. Like there are certain restraints on just like this is the option, so you take it or don't use it. um and
Yeah.
I feel, but that's the thing that's crazy to me is that Airtable is like $20 a month per user, and you can run a business
Okay.
with
Yeah. That's
one user and then make everybody else
yeah.
view only. And it's crazy. It just takes time to set up. I want to interrupt the video really quick to just say if this is valuable, please take a moment, like the video, share this in a Facebook group that you're a part of. Ask me questions, post comments down below. What else would you like to see? Do you have any ideas? Cole had so many good questions and thoughts of other things that were possible. So please don't hesitate to drop those in the comments below or reach out to us. I'm looking for content that's valuable, and it's always helpful to get information from users and viewers that are trying to learn how to optimize and automate their painting businesses. And again, if you're a larger painting company that wants help automating their systems, don't hesitate to reach out. We do free consultations with anyone. And if nothing else, we'll at least point you in the right direction to try and save you some time and money and optimize your business. But
That alone is like worth it. I mean, that's crazy. Because I'd be also curious to see, like, I'm not at the point in my business where I can do it all manually. I have enough bandwidth, and I don't have enough. Like, I can do it. I can manage it right now. Like something like this where there's like 30 things going on at the same time. Like that'd be tough to manage all those subcontractors, all those jobs. So I'm starting to look at solutions for subcontractor management that's like actual like management. It's not just me like texting and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at like I'm trying to think of any other pre-built system that's specific for subcontractor management. And the only thing that I found is it's called HeyPros.
Hmm.
Now, I don't know if you've heard of that one, but I'd be curious to see a breakdown of HeyPros
Is
versus
it like this?
this. And it's yeah, heypros.com. Yep. Because the thing that's really intriguing about HeyPros for me is like you can have like a database of your subs there, and then you can like assign, like it almost is like competitive in a sense that they can see, like, all your subs can see how many jobs you're sending out, but if
So they get to bid on the
there's like
project, sort of.
yeah, there's like bidding and things like that, and there's like they can see like, oh, I got assigned 5 but I only won 2, so there must be other people. Like,
Ah,
there's this kind of like gamesmanship, almost like,
that's
and then you
interesting.
could internally like make notes and rate so your subs and stuff like that. And
I do know that,
um
speaking of that, there is the ability inside of this, for example, you can say, uh, I don't know, I don't think that this particular client does it, but you can say, obviously, the wages of everybody. But another client that we did one for, they have, you can basically set whether it's a percentage of the total contract, or you could set like daily
I was going to ask
production
you that.
volume. So like one client has, like, they know that this sub who's got 4 guys can do, $2,000 a day or week or whatever the time frame is. And so you could be like, this one's 2,000, this one's 1,600, this one's 1,200. And then it takes your total contract. And then so you're able to have it auto calculate the number of days it should take based on that particular subcontractor's size. But most things, like, I would say, I haven't heard of the Hey Pros. Every single time anyone's talking about an app, I always go to Zapier. I can't remember what is it integrations.
See if it's in there.
Yeah, Zapier and Make are the two. Like, I think it's apps, not integrations. Is
Yeah, because that's a game changer. If HeyPros doesn't integrate, then that's a deal breaker, right? Like,
exactly. So it doesn't look like they have
yeah,
a Zap. They could. The other one is make.com/integrations. And these are the two no code integration platforms. So again,
yeah.
you could, if they have an open API. So Hey Pros, yep, no app there either. And then the last thing I would check is just Hey Pros open API. And yeah, it doesn't look like they have an open API either. So that's,
And I think they're like brand new, like kind of
yeah.
still
I
doing
just did a
things.
presentation at, I don't know if you've heard of Nolan Consulting. They're a consulting company for painting businesses, and they
Yeah,
have their grand summit. And I was just talking about how apps are, like, they used to be, there was desktop first apps, and then mobile was like a big thing. So it's like, oh, is this a mobile friendly or a mobile first app? Like, which one? Because everything had to be mobile. Now I feel like the future of software is integration first, because if you integrate well, it doesn't even matter if it works on my phone, because I might not even need to use it on my phone. But I have come across many very cool functional apps. They have really cool features, but no integration. So it's like, so you're telling me in order to use this, it's not going to do everything in my business. So I'm going to have to take my projects from my CRM or from my estimating tool and manually put in every single piece of data. It's just like immediately
yeah,
worthless. You know what I mean? And it's like
yeah,
I don't, it's
yeah.
crazy to me that apps don't. I talked to one founder of a software company who he planted this idea of this integration first in my head. And he said they literally built their API before they did anything else. And then they started adding features. It's like, that is the way you should do it, because if you can
Yeah.
integrate, now you can solve one really niche problem, do it really well, and then, like, I can continue to make it even better. But I just feel like it's crazy. There's another one called, Hoist Up, I think. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah.
They're the ones
You
that
can like
do,
take pictures of the house and like
no, it's, I think it's this one.
I've seen them in turn for like virtual estimates. They can like measure the square footage from a picture or something? And
This one, no, this one's crazier. You literally type in your address, so you could have this on your like on your website. The customer would be like, "Hey, I want to get my house painted." They put in their address, and then it populates all the information from RMLS, so it knows like all the bedrooms. It's got 4 bedrooms or whatever, and then the customer is like, "I want to paint my master bedroom and the 2 guest bedrooms, the living area, whatever," and then it gives you a
that's awesome.
ballpark. It doesn't tell the customer, and these are all customizable, but it will present the like you as the business owner or the estimator. You see the customer has requested a quote, and these are the rooms they want painted, and based on all of your rates, it's going to be around this price, and it does that in like 15 seconds. So really
Yeah,
cool. I met this guy at the PCA, don't have any integrations, and I was just like, oh my, like
that's tough,
you.
man.
So if, but again, they will, and maybe the same thing with Hey Pros. It's not irreconcilable, but it just is crazy that you
Yeah,
have these really, really cool features, and they have no way other than manual importing and exporting of data to like this. The idea of integrating with RMLS data is brilliant. Like I think that makes a ton of
yeah.
sense. But anyways,
No, that's awesome, man. And like just from my like as a consumer, my thought process with building out my tech stack, it was exactly that. Like I personally don't want, and maybe I don't know, maybe I'm an outlier, but I personally don't want like an all-in-one platform. I want a platform that does something really well, knowing that I can tie it
something else.
together with everything
Yes.
else.
Yeah.
That's like more powerful for me. I know that like maybe I'll spend more time up front building things out, and maybe I'm just like a control freak or something,
Yeah.
but it's
Well,
that was like number one
I just feel
requirement.
like that's the smart way, especially when you start seeing the technology that's getting developed. Here's another crazy one that I just heard about. Maker's Hub. Have you heard of this one?
Uh,
This one integrates with, oh, it's makershub.ai, I think. Yeah, makershub.ai. So this one, it literally, you send all of like your Sherwin-Williams or Benjamin Moore or any invoices or receipts digitally that you receive, you send it to one address, and it can digest the PDFs that come in. It reads your purchase order numbers. And I went through a demo. You could even have Sherwin-Williams send you an invoice that's 8 pages long with 12 different projects on it. And as long as each line item has the PO number, it creates all of the suggested entries for you. So rather than going to QuickBooks to enter all those in, you're just inside a Maker's Hub, and it's like, hey, here's the one for $465 for this job. And you just click, yep, that's right. Yep, that's right. Yep, that's right. And then it automatically makes all of those expenses in your QuickBooks correctly tied to the right projects. And then it learns. So like if it is seeing an invoice from Sherwin-Williams, because they generally look the same, it will, like, if it doesn't have 100% what's their like accuracy, or what's the word for guessing, if it like the certainty that it knows the right thing, if it's like 95%, it won't make it until you approve or make an improvement, and then it learns. And so next time it would be at 100%. So it's like, here's all the ones that it knows are correct, so you can just bulk accept, and then here's the 3 that it
damn,
doesn't know what to do. And again, this is one of those things where it's
that's
like,
wild.
this wouldn't have been possible without AI a year ago, and now it is. And how many other apps are going to solve something like this? And exactly to your point, because you're focusing on building tech from tech, like integration first, find the specific CRM that I like, the specific estimating tool, my project management, and then you have your accounting, and then something like this comes along, and if everything else integrates, then you just tack it on, and you just got to benefit from this other niche tool that solves something.
It's the future, man.
Yeah.
Future is now.
So first of all, thank you, because it's so much more helpful. Because I'm like, I don't know if you've seen or how many other videos that you of mine you've seen, but it's so hard.
Big fan.
It's
Big
so
fan.
hard to talk to the computer and just be like, because you
Yeah.
just get lost in your own head, and the questions you're asking are like, yes, I just want more people to tell me, like, specifically what ideas do you have, what's confusing, what doesn't make sense, because it's way more easy to way easier to just say, yeah, here's how you do that or whatever.
And
So,
this, what's interesting too, and just quick note, like it'd be interesting to see this same workflow, but like a dumbed down, simplified version. Like it's cool to see the
what's
extreme on
possible?
the one
Yeah.
end, but then like for me, I'm like nowhere near that scale. So like, is there a place like in my workflow for something like this, just to get my feet wet, just to kind of like
Yeah.
see, right? Like at what point is it overkill? At what point is it worthwhile?
Yeah. How
Like
big
where
of
does
a
that
company
scale
are you
tip?
guys?
Very small. Very,
Like less than
very small. Like I
500,000?
started,
Yeah.
I started in January, so I don't even have
Yeah.
data, right? Like I'm like
And you're
still
selling,
uh
but
I'm
not
selling,
painting?
yeah, doing everything,
Okay.
not
Yeah.
painting.
Yeah.
So I have all sub crews.
I think that you're in an
Yeah,
interesting place. There's Ty Brown.
I
Yeah.
do.
Did
I
he
do.
help you out with Monday?
He didn't, but I'm also in Denver, so I'm like looking up to him secretly from afar as like, dude, you're rocking it. Like
Oh, I
I'm
didn't
gonna
know
be there
where he
someday.
was. I just know that I've used him as an example because how many other overhead staff do you have?
Just me.
Okay, so he's a great like benchmark to try and shoot for because I
Yes.
haven't done anything with him other than we've just collaborated and shared ideas. And he has it's himself and a project manager. And this year they're on track to do 3 million. And he thinks that he might
God
have to
damn.
hire like a part-time assistant project manager. So he would effectively have 2 to 3, let's call it 2.5 employees, total employees to run a $3 million painting company. And then everything is subbed out. And it's because
I know, man.
it's like
That's
what you're
insane.
talking about is just first of all, he was obsessive. If you haven't, I'll send you the link afterwards. I interviewed him on my podcast and he talked about
I
all
would love
this.
that.
Um, and he was just like, I love Ty because he's just an open book and he's sharing very similar to my idea of just like, yeah, what do you want to know? There's so much information to know that it's silly to pretend like anyone has secrets anymore. But
Yeah.
anyways, he was sharing all this and he approaches business the way I think you should, which is forget about gross revenue. What's the maximum amount of money you can take home on the smallest amount of revenue? Like, so if you're going to like, let's maximize our net at the end of the year and don't worry about getting to 10 because I think you could probably run I don't know if you would actually make more, but like for the stress trade off, running a $3 million company with 3 employees, including yourself, versus a $10 million company with 12 employees or whatever you'd have to have, it's just like, yeah, it seems absolutely crazy to me. So you're going
That's
about
wild.
it the
And
right
he's
way to go from just like slow and steady, pick the right tech, and then there used to be a benchmark of 470,000 is what I've heard of gross revenue per overhead employee. And Ty's blowing that out of the water at roughly 1 million per
yeah.
overhead employee. But I would say, maybe you can't get to 1 million, but I definitely think you should not be adding an overhead employee if you aren't at like a 6 or 700,000 uh, ratio. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting because just hearing him like I've heard him on a couple podcasts where he's like, yeah, 30% net profit, and I have one project man. I'm like, shit, man,
Yeah,
that's my ideal situation where it's like, hey, I have one like I'd love to get off project management like as soon as possible and just run sales, just run marketing, like the operations, let project management kind of handle that all that other stuff. I don't know how realistic that is, but yeah, man, he's like, I need to meet him at some
yeah.
point.
He's super. I mean,
He's
I would just DM him. He's very,
just
very
reach
open and
out.
like, and just super helpful. I know from talking to a bunch of other painters, he's like given walkthroughs of his setup and everything. And he was the one that actually pointed out to me that the things that he doesn't like about Monday that are minor pains right now, but it's still workable. I think that Monday makes a lot of sense for like a 0 to 2. Like you can definitely get your like plenty out of it. For companies larger, like we typically start working with companies that are between 4 and 7 million, sometimes a little bit smaller. Um, but there are just obviously different needs, and like access control and permissions and things like that start getting a lot more important when you have bigger companies. But I think that the future of painting is going to be these really lean $3 million companies that are not getting greedy on like market share and just trying to run really effective and really profitable small businesses, way less headache. You can outsource marketing really effectively, and then if you're the
Yeah.
owner that's doing sales.
That's my dream. That's I mean, that's like perfectly like that summarized. That's exactly what I'm shooting for. But yeah, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next one. My name is Chris, and this is Boolean Automation, where we free you up to do what you love.